Rwandan economy, basically in 1995 after the genocide, it had declined by 50%, and inflation was at 65%. That was a very, very tough period, where Rwanda, after genocide, had lost its own capacity in terms of people. It had no revenues, and it had no institutions. But then after that, there was a period, basically from emergency period to rehabilitation period, and now to sustainable development period. During the rehabilitation and development period, that's when most of the institutions that were never existent in the country were put in place, including the Rwanda Revenue Authority, including the National Tender Board, the Ombudsman, the Unity and Reconciliation Commission, and so many others, including the Office of Auditor General. Those were put in place during that period to complement the functioning of the government. Now we are no longer talking about the economy declining by 50%. Now we are talking about the economy increasing last year by 8.6%. We had a target of 7%, but we achieved 8.6% despite the terrible situation in the global economic environment.
What are the main financial reforms, and how have they helped stabilize the economy of the country?
Oh my God, many financial reforms has been very, very incredible because immediately after the genocide we had three banks. And now we have 9 commercial banks. We have over 500 savings and credit cooperatives and MFIs. We have 3 microfinance banks. And also, apart from that, we are also regulating beyond the banking system. We are also regulating the insurance and the pension, which are also very many. And you can see the integration between the two. Some 3 years ago, we didn't have a capital market. Now we have a capital market functioning. Now, within the banking system, what we have done best was, first of all, to make sure that we strengthen the regulation, the regulatory environment, conforming to the international standards.
Despite inflationary pressures which were in tandem with international food prices and fuel, Rwanda has managed to tame its inflation at 5.57%. How have you managed to do this?
That's a long story, an innovation, because we don't have any natural resources which are going to supplement our reserves and all that, so we had to make sure that we learned the hard way. One was very much, first of all, building on capacity. Even with internally, we had to reform, separated the departments, and having different departments work together to make sure that we build our capacity for research. Research in understanding our own economy, understanding all the sources of inflation, understanding what is going on locally, what's going on in the region, and also globally, so that we can assess the situation ahead of time. We started seeing the signals early, like around January, February of last year, when we saw that the prices of fuel are going up. We're seeing the food prices are going up at the same time. We're seeing the drought. We're seeing the pressures in our own region. We're seeing the Eurozone crisis and the high debt of the US. That's the time when the rating was downgraded. And then we realized we had to do something. And that's when we had to plan way ahead of time. In our own situation, first of all, we understand our system, our people, understand now how the economy, the structure of it. And we realized that we had to also work with the government, because the central bank can have a very big impact, mainly on the core inflation. That's the demand side inflation for the money that's coming from the banking institutions. But also, when it comes from the supply side, it's better to work with the government because they're the ones who can take policies that can have impact on the supply side. And when you look at the food and the fuel, they are on the supply side. So we had to engage the government way ahead of time, and that's why the government took a decision through the Ministry of Finance to reduce the taxes on fuel so that we can try to deal together with the inflation. We also had to work with the Ministry of Agriculture, which is in charge of food. They have storages whereby they would need our advice on really the situation and when those kind of bumper harvests can be put on the market, on how they can encourage the private sector to have storage facilities. And also with the Ministry of Trade to make sure that there's no speculation in terms of trade. So there was a lot of, I would say, initiatives that were taken and making sure that we're also liaising with our colleagues in the East African community, trying to know how they see their economies and how it is likely to cross border and affect us.
Now, according to the World Bank's Doing Business report, Rwanda has been ranked 3rd in Africa after South Africa and Mauritius. What are some of the contributing factors?
Well, first of all, there are two things that complement each other. When you say for Rwanda to become a country where anybody can come to invest. Number one, as I said, it's macroeconomic stability. Low inflation, high economic growth, stable currency, and also a stable financial sector. But also there is a conducive environment for business. That means the way we make it easier for anybody to come and do business here. Us being one of the top business reformers, Rwanda being number 3 in Africa in terms of competitiveness, Rwanda being number 4 of least corrupt countries in Africa, this really adds up to saying that something is being done in Rwanda from all the fronts. And that's why we are trying to capitalize on this and try to improve as we go. Because of our openness, you know that our capital here, our capital is liberalized, whereby you can bring in an amount of money, you can take it back, you can take, free repatriation of any kind of profits with no charge. And also at the capital market, also treating the East Africans as Rwandans in terms of taxation, in terms of doing business on our capital market. And for us, this has been really very, very helpful. We are now constantly working together to see which other areas can we reform so that we can improve the way we do business.